Okay, we're live on Facebook and YouTube. We've got Ashley Lee coming in, second show of the day. Should be a very good show. I see you. Let me just play the intro, Ashley, and then I'll bring you up. All good. How's it going, everybody? We got Ashley Lee in the house. Very connected, beloved sister. Second time on, or maybe the third. I can't remember. Can't remember anything these days, can we? All right, let me get this all straight. Welcome, everybody. Facebook, YouTube. Buenos dias, la familia Sology. Let's see. Hello, Delia from outer space. In the Zoom room, and Christy Pastori. Buenos tardes. Yeah, you're right. I stand corrected. All right. Start video. There you go. Let me, wait, unmute. Let me do it. I think you might have, oh, there it goes.
Here we are.
What's happening on the West Coast?
Warmth, sunshine.
Really?
Excitement, yeah.
We had a huge storm over here. Really, like, it was crazy because last night I got presented with some stuff. So I ended up going down to the garage and processing it and going through all these ego deaths. And I might have even cursed a little bit. And there was a lot of fairies and the nature beings were out because where we live, there's a riverbed behind us full of trees. Looks like a little jungle. Anyway, so yeah, and so then I finally came to bed about 5 or 5:30, and you know how you're in and out, you know, and all of a sudden this storm came in. I mean, the wind and the thunder, the really loud thunder booms, and I thought, man, I bet I did this. like if I was in charge of nature at this moment, this would be where I'm at, you know. So how you been? How's it
I think you have. I think you did. I think we can definitely affect the weather in ways that are supportive and positive and illustrative of what we're moving through.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The weather patterns ever since Morgan came over the first time, every time we would go do stuff, the weather would kind of follow us and kind of be a physical representation, you know, metaphorical representation of what was happening energetically. So what's been going on in your world? I know you travel around a little bit. And
a little bit here and there to Sedona, Arizona, and visit a friend in Texas, an artist who is creating a world called Utopia.
Oh,
and there are many initiatives around the world and in the United States that I can see and witness and be a part of. The collaboration of creating the world we're here to create after our Great Awakening.
I know.
Right.
And I know from talking to you before and like talking to you, you know, through private messages, like you're very connected in a very unique way. I think if I remember correctly, huh?
I'm
You're
kind of
right.
unique.
Yeah. So it's
It's
a
good to be that way nowadays. Huh?
yeah. But I mean, it's like you kind of have you're able to kind of take a glance, if I remember correctly, like at the collective. Not only that, but you're able to like see. You have a pretty good way of kind of I don't say well explaining how some of the things work as far as the machinations of the matrix and the holy matrix and all that stuff, the overlays and everything.
That's a great introduction to ideas. I sense that I don't know. I want to say 2 or 3 weeks before our pandemic started. That I was asked to, I saw a chemtrail overhead and I said, what's that about? And I haven't seen them in a really long time. And it was in the evening time. We were sitting in a jacuzzi and relaxing and stretching and being a part of the outdoors in the water. And I got that the chemtrail wasn't bad for humanity. It was actually good. And I said, well, that's fascinating. What does that mean? And I was guided to let go of or conflict resolve inside of myself conspiracy theory consciousness.
Yeah.
And it was very fascinating because as I was guided, I was ready to do it inside oneness for all of humanity. And my inner guidance and energies that I call upon for different perspectives that I didn't know I had before. And in that energy said, how about you just do it for yourself? Just you, just Ashley, no other lives, no other anything, just this being right here. And I said, okay, let's do it. And so it took me a while because I had been so used to standing in the midst of all of humanity to support all of humanity. I took that commitment or that devotion pretty seriously for a long time.
Yeah.
And to do it individually, I could literally feel this sieve of soot, like literally leave out the back end of my body when I released conspiracy theory consciousness. And upon doing that, what I felt, and I don't know if it was instant or over time, but definitely over the next few weeks, as the pandemic episode had started to unfold, and I certainly didn't predict it or know that it was there because I really don't like to spend a lot of time or energy in precogging energies or entities or things that are coming in that want to cause harm or destruction. I'd prefer to put my energies in maybe more productive spaces or more true natured love spaces than that.
Yeah.
And in that process, what I recognized was I was able to see more clearly what conspiracies were or what they weren't or what's happening. I got more clarity. So when we release anything that we experience inside fear or inside paranoia or inside it, that's going to get us. And we're able to conflict resolve that and move that through our being. What happens is clarity starts to come in tremendously. And so it was really a fascinating journey. And just before, right as the pandemic started, we left for Mexico to go on a big boat sailing regatta with my husband and I. And it was a wonderful time. And we left the day kind of America closed down, which was fascinating. And about a week before that, I was called to watch a movie on YouTube, and it was called The Thinning, and I didn't know what it was about or what was going on. And it was this dystopic movie about thinning our population, and
Wow.
it was a pretty crude and rude way of doing that. And it was presented in a fairly okay way, but I just couldn't tolerate the problems that it presented. And so I asked my inner self as I ended watching the movie, and I said, why was I called to watch that movie? And I was called to recognize the words were mass genocide. And I was really taken back by that. I really didn't understand what that meant or what it was about. And in that process, as I went to bed later that evening, I went into conflict resolution for all of humanity for mass genocide. I literally went into, I have a conflict with mass genocide. I do not, I recognize I have a conflict with even consenting to such a thing.
Mm.
And so with that, I released my own judgments, my self-judgments about that, and got very clear, and then released the judgments of those who would consider doing such a thing or participating or being a part of that. And in that process, as we went to Mexico, I sat in observation. So that's where I've been most of these months since February, observing,
Wow.
contemplating, and
uh,
conflict resolving.
um, this is great. You sent me a message and you said, I wonder what my higher self would like to talk about. And typical Todd, I saw the message. I cataloged it. I didn't open it because there's like at least another 150 in the last 24 hours. But I thought I'll check it before the show starts. So this is, there's a lot of powerful stuff in what you said. One, I have to tell you, when I was in Florida, was when the, the alert hit or whatever, and the quarantine and all that. And so I had the same experience with the chemtrails. So I've always looked at everything external as it's all made of the same God substance, regardless of the intention, the aspect or aspects of myself that might have created it, and whatever. So I never really gave it much thought, but I did notice that they had disappeared, and then I noticed they were coming back, and I thought, well, what is that? And I had the same kind of thing, and what I got was, because I asked, and I was told these aren't the same thing as before, and that it's something that's either been put in place by the the star family and or our own human, and or, so one or the other or both. And then you said too about I like what you said too about, so many people like yourself have been transmuting for the collective for so long, but then for your inner self, your higher self, to come in and say, just do it for you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I remember a couple of years ago, Morgan was not feeling well and she was in Australia. And I'm like, I'm sending you healing. She goes, send it to yourself. She didn't mean it in a bad way. But if we align ourselves, that's the same thing. In fact, it's more powerful than us putting our healing out there, because we're depleting ourselves by doing that. So that's a very good point that you made up. And the third thing I think that's very significant is this is a subject that is in our face in the Lightworker community. I've been talking about it off and on. I've talked about it this week. I'm a little bit amazed by some of the people that have some pretty good followings, which is great, that are openly angry, which is okay to be angry. I understand that. But still, we are the line of separation. And if your inner self came in and asked you to process it yourself and not do it for the collective, that's the way of oneness, whereas again, if we externalize anything, love, anger, whatever the case is, we're actually the line of separation. The line of separation starts from ourselves and nobody else. So I think it's a good
it's very easy to get blurred in that when we stand in all of us and like us collective, because many times especially in things we don't like, us becomes them versus us becoming us.
Yeah.
Right. And we create that line of separation, and it's subtle. And a lot of times we don't notice we're doing it. I sense that the higher part of me and the guiding part of me was guiding me to understand it so that I could use this simple brain and nervous system in everyday experiences, and then also to articulate it through languaging, really.
Yeah.
Is to get clear with my own clarity about conspiracies, theories, so that we could actually share amongst one another. I didn't know that we were going to move into this massive world of the fake news network.
Yeah, and well, we've been in it. It's just
we've been in it a long time, but it's
getting
really
more press
amplified now.
It's getting yeah. Well, I mean, this is the ascension. This is what is it? The etymology of the word apocalypse is unveiling.
Yes.
And so as within, without. So, I mean, I think part of the conspiracy, the disclosure, aspect, I think, myself included, woke a lot of people up. They came out and they were like, hey, what's going on with this? And, and truth is stranger than fiction. And then you go down that rabbit hole, and then you start throwing rocks at the monster, and the monster gets bigger. And then you go, oh, I don't need to feed the monster. And now we go down, and here we are in 2020, hindsight 2020. and it's front and center. And we know, this lady Maxwell just got arrested, and we know about Epstein, who, we know this stuff is there, but there's enough material out there. We know that the true history has been hidden from us, to include, Star Family coming down here, inhabiting the earth, uh, cultivating the human Homo sapien, which is now turning into a divine, species. And so all that stuff's out there. And so, like, it's like, how long do we need to beat a dead horse? How long do we need to talk about how we got here? And I remember having this download very similar to yours when I was in Florida, and I was walking the beach by myself, and I was told, you know what? Once you become aware of something because of the state of the field and the quantum characteristics of the field now, not a year ago, but now, once you become aware of something and you consciously apply that uh, code or whatever to your moment by moment existence, you're clear. And
Right.
and then I specifically heard, once you become aware, it doesn't matter how you became aware. It doesn't matter what happened between here and there. That's just the story. And so I think this is what we're getting to now. You know.
I do too. I think it's magical and amazing, and also confronting and concerning, and many times overwhelming. And so when I feel all those different feelings, what I do is go inside, and I spend, I don't know, anywhere from 10 to 23 hours a day awake or live, meditating and connecting and really moving into higher levels of observation. When I was in Mexico and in April and in May, I was paying attention to the collective every day, all the time, to what it is we're here to create and where do we want to come together inside consensus. And I could constantly feel, I don't know, 40 or more factions
Yeah.
fighting each other.
Yeah.
Benevolent, less benevolent,
Yes.
malevolent, all every gamut of the rainbow of kinds of factions that we have created and are creating on the planet in the moment.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to support was an observation to recognize that each one of us matters, each one of us counts. It always has been that way, whether we felt suppressed about it or not. Now we're beginning to wake up as a collective, as a society, as humanity, to waking up that our vote does count. And what I mean by our vote is our consciousness,
Yeah. That's right.
and it matters. And so what does that mean? And how would we like to be responsible for that, creating that inner personal responsibility versus the righteous anger and the benevolence versus benevolence and the fighting amongst one another we've done, good, bad, white, dark, gray, or anywhere in between. Where do we really stand? And I think it's very important, and I appreciate all that people have disclosed and brought out. I think we've lived, many of us have lived under the umbrella of fear of saying something, or
Yeah.
saying what we feel, saying what we get, saying what we understand. And I'm here really standing in the presence of, let's all get together. Why couldn't we all meditate? And supporting kids and families, for example, meditating and connecting to your higher self. And I have a vision, I have a dream, before the end of 2020. What if family members can say, okay, let's spend 30 minutes meditating, and we can have a focal point that's together or separate in our own bedrooms, whatever it is, and then come back together at the end of that period and say, what'd your inner
Hmm.
guidance tell you? Because then it becomes personal and connective at the same time.
Yeah.
And in that process, we can share what other people are deeply thinking, experiencing, emoting, valuing,
Yeah.
instead of the negotiation conversations that we have where we hijack each other's reality to prove each other wrong.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I'm so complete with hijacking.
Yeah, I totally relate to what you're saying. I like what you said, especially at the beginning, or at least the energy of it that came through, which is, we're sitting, you said, I appreciate the people that are, have done the research and brought out the truth behind the lies. They help, there's there's a lot to be said for that, because it has woke a lot of people up. And then that starts the journey. Then you start the journey of self-discovery and all that. But if we drill down into, because it's always, as within, without, as above, below, we can learn from one side or the other, and we drill down into the family. And we, to me, before we can get to that place that you're talking about, which a lot of people in this community, when we come together, we do stuff like that. And we do it like right here. This is a merging, a meditation with 85 people on these platforms. So, but before we get there, do we need to, Pandora's box has been opened. Let's open the thing up. Let's pick the rug up and all the stuff. Let's get the crazy ant out of the attic. Let's get the big elephant that's in the corner of the room. This is where we're headed. I remember when I was on the streets, when I first woke up and I was going through all my stuff and having these incredible conversations and divine episodes, and the universe came in and said, look, why are you so concerned? I said, do you know all the stuff I've done in my life? All the stuff that's coming out, Yeah, we know. But you need to know something. Everything you've ever done, thought, or said, hidden or openly, will be known by every single soul in the universe. And it scared me for a second. And I was like, oh my God. And then I just started laughing. I thought, wait a minute. If that's true for me, that's true for everybody. So if we can all, pull our proverbial pants down and be buck naked in the soul, then what do you have left? Because all you can see is the divinity and the eternal aspect and the perfection, not just only of ourselves, but of what we've created. But I think that's kind of what's happening. If I look at the global as the macro, all the ants, the old crazy ants in the attic are coming out, all the stuff swept under the rug, the big white elephant in the room, everything's being put out there and saturating into our consciousness, which is the impetus for expansion. And yes, we're going to get angry and we're going to have grief and we're going to do this and do that, but that stuff's not going to last. Its universal energy will not support something like that, because it's not all inclusive. It's not oneness. It's not unity consciousness. It's just part of these matrix mental loops, programs within the programs that have, that we created in perfection to separate us to come back again. Something like that.
I completely agree and concur. And I thought what you said about the proverbial pants and opening up our divinity and being butt naked in the soul is really a beautiful saying. I think that's a graphic for sure for everyone to share.
Well, really, what else is there?
What else is there?
What is one of the things that really liberated me, of course, was what I just described. 2 years on the streets, having a constant communion, learning a lot of things, dealing with trauma like we all have, walking in two worlds, but when I met Morgan, here's this lady on the other side of the world. She's very prim and proper. She speaks like perfect diction on her English, and and of course I was mad about her, and so I knew from the beginning I'm going to have to tell her everything, and I didn't know who I was dealing with, and she was probing, and so I said, you don't know me, you don't know, you're wild. I'm like, no, you don't know how wild. This is like deep, deep wild. I never hurt anybody, killed anybody, nothing like that. But I've done some stuff. And she says, why don't you tell me? So I told her just a little bit, all I could actually live with. It was deep. And I just told her a little bit because it was a huge aspect of shadow and trauma in my life, and self-judgment, self-loathing. And I told her, and she said, was that it? But my point is, being able to do that with just one soul was so liberating. To be standing in front of an energy or a mirror that was not looking at me any different. And so the more that, and that's what I love about this show, people want to come on and they want to, and it's okay. They want to talk about their modality. They talk about their connection to a divine essence and all this stuff. I love this. I love, hey, I saw these chemtrails and I went through this. I love what you said. I love the human being an equal part of the conversation, because that's to me where we get the biggest lift.
We are, my colleague that I work with and her younger son was having a moment with his dad, and his dad was being a regular old parent with some harsh tones and some saying, this is what you got to do, and kind of pointing the finger a little bit. And he came forward, 6 years old, and said, Dad, we're the same. I'm just in my small body. And so it's along those measures, right? It's hard to, and he wasn't being smart. He wanted to really level the playing field of the conversation, even if it was a 6-year-old and an adult. What if we could have conversations that are equal and we are equal? Yeah. What if we choose different roles, and some roles are leadership and some roles are doers and some roles are visionaries and some roles, and everything in between. Yeah. And what if the roles that we have don't define us? They support us in creating the physical world we're out here to create.
Yeah. And what if some of the roles, I might look at someone's role and say that's evil. That's probably right. A harsh word, but and you might look at it and say that's something good. Someone that's on the other end of the spectrum might look at me as being a malevolent force, a dark force. I mean, this is.
Well, you brought up a very good point here, because I had a podcast with someone who is a chef, and she's an amazing chef and brings it all out. And we had a conversation about this topic. And I said, I love it when I get a conflict or a negative response, or I chose to do something bad, I don't know, bad for myself or bad for others. And then I notice it, or someone else helps me notice it. It's an opportunity to create change. Yeah. It's an opportunity. It's not a problem. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to create a system or a structure or relationships or way of being that can be improved, that can be more loving, that can be more supportive, more towards our true nature. Yeah. And what if that's not bad? And she was so cute. She said, well, that's the life of a guru. And this is about 2 years ago. And I said, what if it's not a guru? Like, post this pandemic, what if it's everybody? And even what if it was prior to this pandemic? But I think this pandemic or this change in our lifestyle had really, really rattled us and shaken our cage and making us really look at life from a different perspective, a different viewpoint. And so what if a problem, a conflict, racism and everything in between? What if all of it is an opportunity to create change, like right here, right now, today? And where does that change begin? And we are all waking up to the fact that the change begins here. Yeah. It doesn't begin anywhere else. And quite honestly, it begins here, inside that thought, inside that emotion, inside that belief, inside that structure of our whole being, even with our inner guidance. Yeah. I think many people too, we're not necessarily awake to the fact that our higher essences, I've noticed it. I've had other people notice theirs, that our higher guidance isn't always perfect either. We have had soul patterns and soul experiences, maybe far beyond this human experience, that had its consciousness challenges too.
Absolutely.
And I think many of us felt meek or weak or insecure about being human. I certainly resemble that consciousness, being a young one in this lifetime, and felt meek and weak and not okay, and definitely felt that the nether world, the ether world, the higher world was higher than me and better than me. And as I began to look very deeply and devote this time and really support this process in my growth, I recognized the higher elements of me needed some cleaning too, and some ants and elephants in the room as well. That's and right. So in that process, we get cleaner, we get clear, we open, and it becomes a part of our everyday, every minute experience of connecting with our inner guidance. So I was kind of joking with you, and I said, what does my inner guidance say? Because I felt like our conversation can go anywhere, and it can be as big as the universe.
It's doing good. I think
and
it's
as small
perfect.
as Tuville. And I would love to speak about anything that presences us today with
Yeah.
that in this moment, being in the flow.
I've
And,
never, I've received something very similar to what you're talking about. I'm sure people have as well. I really like that you brought that up, and I'll give you an example. So we all have our teams, you know, everybody's different. Different aspects are presented to them, or different energies. Some people might not even see it as a Merlin or a dragon or a galactic. They just feel the energy. So we're all really talking the same language there. But to your point, we're made up of this composite of aspects, and however that's done, that's just something I don't know. I don't think anybody can put their finger on it yet. But my point is I've noticed in my own journey that certain, and I'm just going to use this word, factions within my field, my being, my multidimensional, have certain objectives or certain specialties. So they favor that. And I remember this going back 9 years ago when I had this first wave of masters came in. There was like three spirit guides, six ascended, Jesus Magdalene. That was kind of the group there. And I noticed that the six masters in particular each had, and they told me, this is my specialty. I've taught you this. Do you remember? And all this stuff, whatever. But I remember them. They could have an overreach with their agenda. So then we fast forward to today, and as we go into a higher appreciation, understanding, and awareness and respect for the human aspect, we're 99% of the time conscious, you know, uh, we start to realize that this inner work, shadow work, or zero pointing, or other types of alignment, uh, we're at the center, we're at the core. And so as we are correcting or aligning or perfecting, further perfecting, we're actually bringing those bridges and zero points to these other aspects in all dimensions and timelines. And I've been told this straight up. I know other people have, but I was shown when you heal this, you're healing, for instance, the Pleiadian Anunnaki rift, or Lemuria in Atlantis, and so back to your point, final point, is that these things that speak to us were, in my opinion, at the time, they felt external, they felt more powerful and otherworldly, but now that things have begun to align in 2020, I think we can understand that this is us that we're talking to, this is us that we're visited by, and this is basically our toolkit. And if I need logic and wisdom, I'll dial up Solomon. If I need to write poetry, I'll dial up Isaiah, who taught me that, or whatever. If I need healing, I'll call the Arcturians to beam me up to the ship to get treated, or whatever. We have this. It's all us, right? I know you get it. That's why I love talking to you.
It really is all us. I mean, I was exposed to another kind of guide when I was in LA and at Lake Shrine and Yogananda, Lake Shrine in Malibu, and I entered his chapel, like temple shrine area, and it was a little windmill lighthouse looking building structure, and went in, and everybody was meditating, and it was very, very quiet, and I sat in the back, and it was really amazing because I had closed my eyes and I barely put anything down. I didn't want to make any noise for the other meditators. And I said, who would like to talk to me? And there were 7 pictures of 7 ascended masters. And I knew a few of them, but not all of them. And it was really neat. And I heard me. I said, who's that? And it was Yogananda. And his picture was just literally lighting up and
Wow.
moving in the energy. And I said, oh, it's wonderful to meet you. I'm so glad to be able to talk to you and have this moment with you. Thank you for creating this space for us to come in and be with you. And he said, well, why don't you come and sit in the front seat? And I said, well, I already am in the front seat. I'm everywhere. And I saw him literally look at each seat, validating that I was in every seat.
Mm.
And he said, very good. And I said, very good. That's interesting. Why do you say very good? And he said, what else did you notice? And I noticed other paintings and other things that were connecting our genetics and our oneness and those kinds of concepts. And he said, very good. And I said, wonderful. Now what do we get to talk about? And he said, I want you to meet the man to your right and my left, which was his guru, which I didn't know at the time. And he said, I'd like to introduce you because he's going to share with you 6th to 12th dimensional physics. And I said, it's wonderful. I've been interested in that because I noticed calculus goes out the window after the 6th dimension of awareness that we ascend to, or we come into that awareness. And I said, so great. So as I walked out, the turtles started talking to me and they said, what do I do? What do I do? And I said, just be you. It was really cute. But later I had a journey with this gentleman. I call him compassionately Shri. And Shri showed me. And so I was paddleboarding out in Maui, and I paddled out into the middle of the channel between Molokai and Maui. And it was very flat water, very calm. And he said, climb out off your board. And so I did. And so the ocean was like jello, and I started climbing out and walking around. And I'm looking down at the whales through the jello ocean.
Wow.
And I said, no, this isn't for me. So I went back on my paddleboard. I paddled back in, and I landed on the beach with the board. And Shri said, what are you doing? And I said, well, I have another plan if you're okay with that. And he said, sure, what's that? And I said, well, I rather got that you were going to teach me how to walk on water. And I said, that's perfect and wonderful. And I'd like all of humanity to join me too. So have you ever taught me and humanity how to walk on water yet? And he said, no. And I said, what if we do that? Can we do that? And he said, yes.
Wow.
So it was pretty awesome. He's still convincing me to do it just in teams for right now, because it's a big job to teach all of humanity to walk on water.
I like to see that.
But it was pretty amazing. So those are the ideas, right? And to transcend our beliefs and our knowledge about our 3D world. I honor the physicists and other scientists and other people and metaphysicians all over the world that are really supporting us in understanding our oneness inside physical reality. And our physical reality does go beyond our basic 3D observations and conclusions that we've created in our world. Absolutely. And so those are just one of the things that you talked about, where we can work with the ones we dial up and the ones that we have support us in creating other perspectives in the world. And what is all this really about? This is really about really connecting to our omniscience, our genius, our inner superpowers, our inner abilities to express to the world what it is we're gifted in to bring forward. And I really do honor and see and recognize everybody's giftedness. I have a feeling, I kept asking when I was younger, why am I so gifted? What is going on? Because these gifts are overwhelming. They're hard to process. No one understands me. I don't get it. The language that we speak doesn't match what we're doing. How do we share that? Because inherently that they're all heart-centered. Yeah. They're all based in our true nature, which is love. They're not a special parlor trick or a thing you do in the circus. That's all fun and good too.
Dog and pony show. Dog and pony show.
It's not that.
No, I know.
And inside that giftedness, what do we do? And I recognize the reason why I have bits and pieces of a lot of different giftedness is to share that with the children and to share that with their parents so that they're able to really connect to that and understand that and grow that inside their persona, their roles that they create, and the gifts that they bring to the world. So it's not just hard labor or not just amazing thoughts or emotions that we give. It's like combining all of it together. And how is that expressed so that it fills your individuated cup up as you live your life, and that you're able to share this abundant love that is ever flowing through our experiences in life and what we create going forward with each other and with ourselves.
Right on. Right on. And I love I know you work a lot with children. Mary Rodwell works a lot with children. I'm really have a lot of respect for both of y'all. But I think like to myself, because people, they come on here and I will ask them a lot of the time, when did you wake up? And the answer's, I was born that way when I was a kid, and I was engaging that. And then I was told, go to your room. There's no one in your room. You're just imagining it. Shut that down. Don't talk about it and all that. But I can imagine in 20 years or less, having someone come on that's, 20, 18, 22, and saying that to them and just basically saying I was born that way. In other words, because they're encouraged and supported and that aspect of our reality is cultivated, they won't shut it down. And can you imagine unimpeded, like just someone like yourself, if that had not been obstructed, can you imagine? You probably would have been showing that divine essence how to walk on water as opposed to him showing you. You know what
Well,
I mean?
I'm beginning to realize my immortality. So maybe for the next 100 years, we'll be able to share that no matter what the maturity age group I am in at that time.
Yeah.
And you're exactly right. I noticed that a lot of children are born, and this is where I'm so excited our conversation got to this level, is to really share with parents and understanding that many of us, if not all of us, were born into the idea of oneness and connectedness. We we were born into a society or a value system that said we are separate, we're individuated. That's what's important. And these are all the conundrums and matrices of realities we created in that separation. And right now, though, there is a huge movement of parents that are volitionally, intentionally wanting to create children that are born into oneness, stay in oneness throughout their whole entire childhood into adulthood. I have parents that call me and share, we know we're in the way,
Yeah.
and we want to get out of the way so that our child can be their true nature. And I was literally crying. I said, the world has woken up and we are ready now.
Yeah.
And it is beautiful. And so we were in the way. Okay, so we were born into a situation, the rest of us who are a little older than maybe 21, that were born into an environment, or maybe even a little younger than 21, that were born into an environment where we were believed that we were separate, that we were oppressed, that we were suppressed, that we were enslaved to money and judicial systems and everything else. And instead, we now have the opportunity truly to look at where are our suppressions? Where is everything going? We got a great look at this for schools. When schools closed,
Yes. I was going to say, what a gift that was.
It was a tremendous gift because we got to let go of babysitter consciousness, right? When did we say that we wanted to send our kids to school so they could be babysat and we could have a break? I mean, I'm like, so we get to redefine what that means. And what if everyone gets to own it, even if they're an infant?
Mm-hmm.
You get to share with the infant. It's going to be okay. Thank you for crying. That emotionally tells me you have a need. It's beautiful. Thank you for expressing your need. Now, take a deep breath. We're going to calm, and we're going to know that we're going to get fed or our diaper changed or whatever it is we wanted. That need will be addressed. Good job. We don't address crying babies that way, do we? We do this, right? Mm-hmm. We shush them out. And so when we start, even in utero, starting in utero, I share with parents all the time, it's okay you had a bad day. It's okay you had a frustrating day. But I want you to rub your hands together, reignite that love that you are, and put it on your belly and share directly with this unborn child. Yep, our world out here sometimes gets a little crazy. And it's okay. It's not about you. And it's okay. You're going to be able to learn how to deal with it too. And we get better and better at this every day.
That's right. And it is getting better and better every day.
Yeah.
It is. It really
right.
is.
And so these children nowadays, and they will right after all of this too, right? Being born into oneness, being born into the knowing that we're all not separate, we get to now acknowledge a very different paradigm, a very different viewpoint.
Yeah.
We growing up, us being parented a certain way, their parents being parented their way as well, all of that. And then on top of it, now we're choosing to directly change that. I'll tell you, it's a very different viewpoint when someone says, I'm not getting my needs met from a perspective of oneness versus a perspective of in separation.
Yeah.
So I think it's valuable for all of us, even as adults, even us talking to each other, adult to adult, child to child, whatever, is to recognize, is the person I'm speaking with inside oneness? And is that their perceptual understanding? Or did they drift over to separation? And are they experiencing a lot of pain, suffering, and fear? And if they are, then the context in which I can speak and share, I can meet them where they're at to understand, to help deliver them, if that's what they want, into that true nature state of oneness. And so we can start to develop these kinds of conversations that really support each other, rather than saying, oh, you're over there, you're stuck, you're bad. Oh, you're over here, you've been in service to self, and that's
Well,
terrible.
it is a quantum field now. So if I say to myself in my head, you're over there, you're stuck, you're not awake, I just created
You
I just
just
created it.
created
I
it
created an overlay on
and
the
reinforced it
yeah,
for them to actually have to move that veil
yeah,
out of the way to get
yeah,
less unstuck.
yeah. I like what you said about if things aren't, where you want them from the two different perspectives. And because from a perspective of oneness, we know if I want something or some things and they're, my intentions are pure, the heart of my intentions of heart, uh, I can get those things, but it's my responsibility. And
Yeah, so
the whole world is my responsibility. My
right.
existence is my responsibility. Um, yeah, this is like so crazy because, you know, something shifted. So you were talking about February, March into May. I left Florida on May 28th. There was a lot of stuff happening the prior 2 weeks. We put out, a good, 5 months of, more than that, but in Florida, 5 months of, at least 2.5, 3 shows a day. Everything was rolling. So I took 3 weeks off to get over here, get set up again. And I noticed something changed in the field. Like the sequential aspect of the ducks getting in a row, like the story, instead of it being like, you remember that old books with the connect the dots, 1 2 3 4, right? So we
Yeah.
would get like prior, let's say like prior, we would get like 1 6 14. I was starting to see them like 1 2 3, but they weren't in a linear framework. So like I'm talking to you now, and all this stuff is falling in place, and all these numbers, and I can see the shape of the figure that's being drawn by connecting the dots. And it's really strange. It's like a super deja vu almost. It's like I remember this, but maybe not the specific event, but I remember the math. I remember the language. And so like talking to you is almost like a full circle from some of the stuff that I experienced over there, and then what you mentioned in your own right, and then having this conversation now in regard to the collective and the, not the cliche, but the direct, how the collective is shaped in direct proportion to the individual's level of self-responsibility for creation of the collective.
Yes.
I mean, we are goddess, we are that.
Yeah, I mean, just a few days ago, I went through a process recognizing about heresy consciousness, and it's an inside oneness consciousness challenge, where inside oneness, I recognize the foibles and the challenges with heresy and this concept from religious doctrine.
Hmm.
But we can have heresy inside all kinds of corporate, scholastic, judicial, governmental structures as well, right? Because going against the norm. And I recognized inside my own religious indoctrinations of multitudes of this life and many others, and recognized that I had to lie, deny, and disrespect my own true nature and surrender that I was something less than.
Yeah.
And I had to submit and admit that I'm a sinner, and I had to have other people who were ordained or God's warriors or this or that and the other. And I'm probably resemble one in another lifetime too. And all of that process. And I recognized how I had to sublimely give away my power to give it to someone else in order to consecrate me and make me good and whole again.
Are you
And
Catholic?
make me true. And I realized, wow, what a conundrum
Yeah.
we have created inside religion and other systems and structures on planet Earth, where we make people submit to something that they are not.
To failure.
Yeah.
Submit to failure. I mean, look at the educational system.
And so if we sin and we make a mistake, what if we could say to each other, you know, what you did, that's not so like you, right? You are made of love. You're not made of hate. You're not, and so that sort of thing. And so what if we could remind people of their love and their true nature and recognize that they may have sinned or may have committed a crime or done all of these things that are not positive at all, and help them understand how to take interpersonal responsibility to that degree to change that within them.
Or maybe,
because we don't recognize that when we make a folly or a foible or a crime or do something really terrible, we're also injuring our true nature, our soul.
yeah. Yes, here we go again with the full circle thing.
Right?
And maybe, yeah, I'm going to read something to you because it's exactly what I pulled down. Like, I didn't do it. I just was the conduit and wrote it about 6 days ago. But and then it goes back to, yes, yes, we can do this for them, and yes, we can do that for them, and yes, we can be more conscious of how we speak to this person or that person, and so on. But then it goes back to what you opened the show with, which was you wanted to basically transmute for the collective, and your higher self said, don't do it for the collective, do it for yourself. And that's the whole thing. And then the other thing I would point out is maybe I love what you said about the failure and the sinning and having to surrender to the fact that we were lesser than we are, which then means we're lesser than this establishment or that institution that won't accept me because my SATs aren't high enough, or whatever, tax brackets and religious and political and all that. Maybe the perfection is in the imperfection of this realm. So I pulled this thing down the other night, 3:30 in the morning, and it just started coming in after a few days, but it all kind of came in and encapsulated in this. So I got my phone out and I typed it up, and that's what it was talking about. It was talking about how you cannot create from perfection. If you're in a realm of perfection, what can you invent to make it more perfect? What can you do to make it more perfect? I'm going to read it.
That's why I stand still a lot of days.
Yeah, when in doubt, do nothing, right?
Well, no, I stand still inside of perfection and noticing.
And
what's really fascinating, though, is inside that perfection, I know that's the precipice of creation.
Yes.
So what if we can stand from the 0 point, our true nature, our peaceful point, and choose to create from there and take these tools, right? Have this tool, have a Shri tool, have a poetry tool, all of these tools, and then develop from there and develop an emotion inside of us, because we are the creators of our emotions. Yes. And accelerate that physical manifestation and form with our emotion that we want to create.
Yes. Yeah, the emotions are key. I think the emotion is part of the unique trait of the human species to the universal is the effective conscious use of our emotions as an elixir in the alchemic,
Yes, it accelerates manifested form. It really does. And it's amazing to witness and watch. And so when we have negative feelings, we manifest negative things pretty fast. We very few or very often have positive emotions. And what if we switch that around? What if we more often had positive emotions and productive and happy and healthy emotions, and chose to spend most of our day towards what it is we're choosing we want to have versus fearing what we don't want to have.
Be with who you love, do what you love.
And that'll start to accelerate our physical world around us.
Yeah, because the energetic pulsation of that will be will be, it's not going to be the words. It's going to be the energetic impact of people. You know, Morgan says, choose yourself in all moments, but to thine own self be true. Um, you know, aligning with your bliss, however you want to put it. You don't have to say anything.
Right.
This is the whole target of the power game in the old paradigm that we're leaving. You see something that you don't have because you did surrender to that you were lesser than, and you see something, oh my God, she can do this and he can do that. And then that whole, and there is something about that person that in that particular part of their frequency makeup, they are in full blown alignment and they're getting it done. You know,
Right.
the key I think is not to, but we will come to being master of all things, specialist in everything. Because even when we over identify ourselves with, well, I can only do this, or I can only do that, or I'm very good at this, but I'm not good at that. That's still surrendering to I'm less than I am. You know?
You're so correct. And it's so well said too, because we bring that heresy aspect into our everyday experience. And what we can do is we really can choose in the moment to say, oh, there's that moment that I'm choosing to be less than. There's that moment that I'm subjugated. I'm allowing subjugation to happen to me. That means that, you know, everyone can suppress me and tell me that I'm less than, to pay me less, or to treat me less, or to value me less, or to value themselves less in order to, I don't know, you know, all the different reasons why we make up the conditions we make up to create the world we believe we have to create. And so you're exactly right. So when we let go of us needing to suppress our truth, our true nature, or deny our divinity, right?
Yeah.
So that we can start to breathe and open up the energies that flow through us that are our giftedness. And it's, what if it's wonderful to share our giftedness with each other? I mean, what we could say instead of, hi, how are you? Say, hi, it's so wonderful to meet you. What's your gift that you bring to the world? I truly want to celebrate that in this moment. Right? Yeah. You bring the gift of conversation. Well, it's not your only gift, but it is certainly a big gift. And you certainly explain that and share that with the world daily, with just a huge commitment and devotion of love to sharing this conversation. Because really, where does our world come from? It comes from a thought. And from that thought, we take those snippets of thoughts and create them into longer strings of thinking or values. And we share that with each other in conversations. Those conversations get heard by others and elevates others and have the opportunity to create more of what we're looking for, more of who we are, and more of honoring one another. Rather than the conversation of you this and you that,
they
and I
this
hate
and
this.
they that, and let's like how you know, I don't do too many spirit walks anymore, but the last one I did, that's what it was about. It was like, how long are we going to beat this dead horse? How long are we going to continue to talk about the things that we already know are there? And again, how long are we going to talk about the story that got us to this level of awareness, when what's important is the level of awareness? It doesn't even matter how we got here.
Right here, right now.
Right. And where are we going? Where we're at and where we're going. You know?
Right. I agree with you. I agree with you. Many people tell me your story. Where did you begin? And I'm like, well, which part? Do you want in this lifetime? Do you want in utero? Do you want when I released all my asthma and allergies? I mean, where do you want the story to begin? Because it's always evolving, and it's always amazing and wonderful. And so I sense more the conversation is about, where would you like to begin to share the conversation going forward, to move us into a direction that we all can agree on. And you know, the agreement part, I think, is really important too. I talk to a lot of kids and families about this. We're now into a new realm of reality negotiation. We used to do reality negotiation by how well we could talk, or how loud we could speak, or, you know, have a higher position over another person. or manipulate the conversation, or whine or cry, like some of us did when we were little. So how we talked about how we can manipulate the conversation to our reality.
Yeah.
But what if it's not about that anymore? Now it's about, okay, this is my reality. This is what I'm sharing. This is what I'm seeing and believing and knowing in me. What is it that you're experiencing in this moment? Would you share? And if they don't know how to share, then just ask them smaller, bite-sized questions to help them unload what it is they felt that they couldn't share before.
Yeah.
And then that's the reality negotiation. I'd like people to start sharing with each other, because I'd like that in my life as well, so that we really can. Because when we can negotiate without any forms of manipulation involved, no NLP, no none of this stuff, no ways of controlling the
Hmm.
relationship, is to say the way that we help open our unconscious thoughts and minds is really to be present in compassion.
Yeah.
And that compassion is absent of judgments.
That's right. Well, and then again, is this happening anyway?
I
I
think it
mean,
is.
in heaven, or let's just say 5D Earth or whatever you want to call it, is there manipulation? Is there suspicion? Is there a reason to lock your doors? You know,
Right.
I mean, we're being tested at the embodiment level. I remember back in the original studio, I was told I lived in a townhouse facing a cemetery. So the back door was the parking lot with a carport, and that's what we used. But the front door had a sidewalk running parallel to the cemetery that was dark. Like people just didn't use it. So, but I was told, open your door and leave it open. And I had a full screen glass storm door. And I was told, leave the door open. Don't leave it unlocked. Open it all the way. Leave the sliding glass door, the sliding storm door, or glass storm door, unlocked, and that'll be your barrier. And I mean, I understood it at that time, and for 6 months, that's what I did. And I mean, June bugs were coming in and leaves, and my daughters were going crazy. Dad, please close the door. But I knew at that moment, even though I wasn't like totally understanding things, that it was an energetic statement. That it was an energetic statement of, I guess, the opposite of fear. So fearlessness, and spiritual confidence.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I'm getting at, is like we're being asked to. So telepathy is what telepathy is, and on our way there, we are to embody the characteristics of telepathy, which is to be transparent, open, honest, no manipulation. Because how can you have manipulation when there's full blown telepathy? When everybody
Right.
knows everything. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like what we're doing is actually making that happen, embodying that in our actions, and there's some kind of new um, new additive to the original equation, which is through our experience, then coming into the awareness and then applying it. I was shown that years ago too, that wisdom is knowledge plus action. So when you're handed some knowledge, that doesn't make you wise. Taking that knowledge and then basically embodying it and putting it into action creates wisdom.
It sure does. And
That's kind
you
of what we're
brought up a
doing.
valuable point about boundaries, because inside this concept of oneness, and we're all one and we're not separate from one another, we can't have any boundaries. It's not possible.
No, there are no
And we
boundaries.
don't need protection from each
No,
other.
and there's no ownership. There's no
Right.
ownership. There's no possession.
Right.
I see, I every now and then I'll share, I get hit a lot, or did when I was doing more posting on YouTube with the music and the radio shows, and I'd get hit with the copyrights. Somebody had a copyright. I'm like, what the hell is that? You know, there is
Yeah.
no copyright. There
Right.
is no, you don't own anything. You might be the conduit for the universal, but you don't own it. Just like we don't own our kids.
Right. Exactly.
That's a big one. When you learn to allow your kids to develop their own rhythms without interference and obstruction from you, I mean, there's people that go to their grave never having learned that, and that's because that's the era they're in or the role that they had. But so we're you know we're doing this thing. Things are getting better. We've come from a space of underestimating and undervaluing ourselves. Now we're walking into a space of every day our awareness of who we are, what we are, and what we're part of is growing. And the crazy thing is that all the fantastic stuff that happens to us and the skills and the abilities and everything that we have aren't the main factor. The main factor is the most human boots on the ground stuff. It's like taking that information and being real. And it on one hand seems kind of menial and less dramatic and less attractive than all that fun, fantastic stuff. That although it taught us stuff, it did still lead us to separation because we wanted to get out of here and stay up there. But now
Right.
we're doing this at the ground level. And I really think that there's enough people doing it, you know, that are doing stuff hands-on, nuts and bolts, like your work with children, that it's having an impact beyond what's happening in your physical circle, because what you're putting out is going into the non-physical, into the ethers and permeating this grid.
Yeah, I really realized, and you're so right about, boots on the ground and doing it physically. I mean, even personally, I'm walking into deeper and deeper levels of creating this. I feel really solid in my mental, emotional, and spiritual realms now, where I feel like now I've done my inner, and we're not done, but I've completed a large level of interpersonal responsibility, where now I know that I can start to put these in true applicable situations, even for
Yeah.
my own personal adventures. And I
Yeah.
recognized the other day I had to let go of tedious consciousness
Yeah.
that had been hanging around from earlier years and decades ago, and that how life is tedious, that the dishes and the laundry and this and that is tedious. And I recognized that I had developed all these patterns
Yeah.
to either delegate it to other people or fold time and make it all happen very rapidly, or do other things that prevented me from actually getting exercise or doing other
Yeah.
things that are far more valuable.
Yeah.
And so when I let go of life is tedious, I mean, I really conflict resolved it inside myself. Now doing the dishes is not, it's a very different physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual experience.
It can be a Zen experience, you know?
Yes.
I used to do that with mowing the lawn when I was first having kids and in my 20s. And I had this big flat yard with no trees and it was hot. And I just developed the zen of mowing the backyard, you know, and I just started to zen it. And then before you know it, you're done. And it's like, you know, it's a
And the
totally different
grass
experience,
probably
totally
looks
different
really
experience.
beautiful because they loved it too.
Right on.
And when we develop that synergy with our world around us, and we recognize that maybe our physical world is not so demonstrative after all, and not so awful or experience or dense to feel with, because we can now recognize that we can interact with our physical world in ways we never knew we could do before.
Yeah.
And it's really becomes this beautiful experience.
And it's so weird because there's always a double entendre in this paradoxical framework. So on one hand, we look at the dense aspects of our reality, of our physical body, of our, you know, our experience and our journey. And so at the same time that we're starting to allow that and like you said, clear the tedious, you start to realize, wait a minute, the biggest magic's not up there, it's right here. Like we
Right.
can turn blood into gold or whatever, you know what I mean? I mean, we can do whatever. And this is what's starting to come out. And this is what I pulled down, which is what you've been talking about. So we must have been in the ethers that night or something, because it was the fact that we created a perfect imperfect realm. And it was so perfectly imperfect that we were able to, by design, to forget our true nature and to create this extremity of polarities so that we would have more of a palette to create from. And so now we enter this space which judgment, being judgmental, inferiority, superiority, what did you say? Manipulation, suspicion, locking the doors, proverbially speaking, it all goes away. And then we start to, so we're not, we're perfecting. We're building perfection, a higher perfection. And how could you do that if you're already in a perfect place standing still? Well, we know the universe doesn't stand still. So
Right.
that's how this whole thing started. The mother said, what would happen if? And then boop, there you go.
Here we are.
Yeah. It's a fantastic, incredible ride. It really is. It's amazing. And it's amazing how quick we're able to get back on our feet, so to speak, with the amount, with the frequency and the volume of the energies coming down.
It's amazing.
Mhm.
I look at it every day, and every day people are more open to having meditation. And even for those who are challenged, like we're stuck in our left linear brain and we're in beta wave, brainwave patterns, and we're having trouble meditating. I say, what if it's a conscious introspection of our inner experience?
Yeah.
But what if it doesn't have to be meditation? What if it can be during dishes or mowing the lawn or doing
That
the
is
lawn?
meditation. That is meditation.
I
That's how I
know.
meditate.
I love meditation. And then when we let go of our laundry list, our to-do list, and we let go of it, we can start to come out of those beta brainwaves thinking. And we can start to use this tool, brain and nervous system, to more fantastic ways than we ever knew we could. And we can experience, like you put in gamma brainwave downloads, is
Hmm.
those huge downloads. And inside that, we can slow our brain down at the same time and just sort of pick and choose what
Well,
streams of knowledge we'd like
yeah,
to focus on in such a way that we can extrapolate that, talk about that, and share that with others around the
yeah,
world. And that's where we really accrete our genius down into the physical world and
yeah.
share with one another. And I'm so honorific to be surrounded by all of humanity now and before, and especially in this now moment, to recognize everyone's giftedness.
Hmm.
So when I walk down the street, when I'm in the hospital, when I'm in the office, when I'm at home, when I'm out to the grocery store, even with everybody wearing face masks, that I let go of silly consciousness and I move into sharing consciousness. We are still capable of sharing with each other and our giftedness. And when I look someone in the eye, I share with them heart to heart, mind to mind, maybe voice to voice. Your giftedness and who you are makes a difference. Who you are, I love so much. And I'm so grateful for being here with you in this moment.
Man, you're on it today. You've been drinking the Kool-Aid. Here, I got something for you. Only because I'm being told to do it. Because it's
Perfect.
exactly what we've been talking about. I think you can relate to it. Uh, now, now more than ever, it's a good time to go easy on yourself and go easy on each other because we're all going through the same shift. I am soul. Maybe when we all arrive to a certain point, we'll realize that we were all beating at the same vibration all along. It just didn't and couldn't, by our own design, look that way while we were going through it. I am faith. How could we create anything new from a perfect state? Maybe we designed the perfect, imperfect realm, world, and lives to get back to the mother, the abyss, the great void, the womb of the holiest darkness, where the soul, fractal of creation, learns again, rebirths, renews, and resurrects with new egg, new seed, new earth, new life, and a new experience. Where for all of creation to grow up. They threw that part in. Uh, Maybe when we give as much love, honor, respect, reverence to our hand in the polarity and illusion as we do to our claim of the light, that we will bring it on home. When we realize that projection is projection, no matter who started the fight. When we realize that holding space trumps all needs to be right. When we come to a space that everything on this complicated trip matters, all lives are souls, I am peace. Death dies and life lives. We are both the mission and the prize. The universe lives vicariously through us, by us, and is us. We are heroes, all of us. No matter what role someone played, we all showed up. And that establishes the commonality of both human and soul in all its multidimensionality. Maybe when we can look to co create, collaborate, coalesce, and integrate with everything outside of us, merging internal and external instead of exciting the differences altogether, then we'll bring it on home. I am wisdom. Maybe what it's going to take is for the universe to take full responsibility for everything going down in our collective and personal universe. It's never them, it's always me. To thine own self be true. Maybe the greatest fear we have and share is the fear of our own power to be like Jesus, Kuan Yin, Merlin, Mother Mary. We are that and infinitely so much more. I am courage. From the human we toiled and never treasured. From the divine human we treasure. And now the toil of the soul comes to expand the outer breadth of Mother Creation. So go for it. Do it now. Be brave. Nothing to lose. But the only thing we have for sure, it's called life. That's what came in the other night, where it really put everything into alignment for me. And I stepped away, and I'll say this, I stepped away from feeding the monster of conspiracy. We all know. Well, what good is it going to do for me to keep talking about it or even keep viewing it? So I made a decision and other decisions at that time that I would turn it off. You know, I think we're doing a great job, and I think we're going to be realizing how great of a job we're doing more as the days go by. And I think those days are going to go by very quickly.
They're going by very quickly. And it was so beautiful what you shared and what resonated with every cell of your body. And you brought that through so beautifully in those words and that poetry. It's remarkable. I had a tear running down my face. I was like, wow.
You should have seen me last night in the garage.
This time is here.
Morgan's like, what happened to you last night? I said, man, I was up till 5:30. I said, I was crying. She goes, you were crying. I'm like, I was crying. I was bawling. I was
crying with joy.
I don't know what it was, but I know it was just happening, and I was just having a conversation. But like I said, it's amazing how much information we're taking in, and it's not debilitating, but I mean, the impact that it has on the different levels of the body, emotion and mental and the physical and cellular and heat, hot flashes and drowsiness and forgetfulness and all that stuff. But yet we're able to bounce back. And it's not like, it was 8-9 years ago where it took months or weeks or even days. Now it's like, boom.
Couple hours, maybe.
Yeah.
And it's really true. And, even when we experience something bad or untowards or something that has been bad for a long time and we're here to create it, really, we have the tools. We can conflict resolve it. And the biggest part of conflict resolving it really, truly is what we've been talking about, is releasing the judgments of it. That releases the energetic entanglement.
Yeah.
That releases that wall, that boundary that we've created. It allows you to open your door and let the June bugs in. Yeah. Right.
It's true story. It's a true story. And the funny thing was, when I came down, because they gave it to me, and I had put a studio in downstairs, and I'd be sleeping down there, but I think it was like the last night I was sleeping in the bedroom I had. So I listened and I heard him, and I was still getting my feet wet with him. So I didn't always know, was I crazy? I was still in that mode of, am I crazy? And so I came down the next morning and the door wouldn't shut. It wouldn't shut. And
you got used to that open position.
No, I mean, the first time it happened, like they told me to do it, I didn't do it. I go downstairs and the door's like, I'm trying to shut it and it won't shut, like when it gets too hot or too cold. So I thought, okay, well, there's your evidence, Yeah, it was pretty crazy time.
Exactly. So we have the tools to take care of things that are negative or less desirable in our world. We have an opportunity to share amongst one another openly and authentically. We know that we're safe, we're protected, we're supported. We already are that because we're inside oneness. And whenever we step into that awareness of our true nature, it really does become, our world becomes invincible.
Yeah.
And we just really have lack of experience in that. And that's okay. And it's here now to experience and walk into every day.
Yeah.
And so encouraging each other in these ways, encouraging our audience to support themselves walking into that oneness every day really is safe, really is okay, and really is a majestic place of our true nature.
Yeah.
And we can, the really neat thing is we're in oneness whether we like it or not.
That's what I say.
And
We are one. I used to say it in the old Soulgy crazy spirit walk videos back in the day, and I would say that we're one whether you like it or not.
right.
Well, we
Whether you like it or not, your thoughts and feelings and emotions are open to the world, and there are some people that can read it and some that can't still yet in this moment. But we're all waking up to that. And so it's cute because a lot of telepaths ask me, well, sometimes I have icky thoughts, and I go, okay, what if it's okay you have icky thoughts? What if you let the world? I'm having icky thoughts. I'm being human for a moment.
Yeah.
It's okay. What if you could bring your energy in instead of trying to send those icky thoughts out to all the people you're disliking? What if you could go, okay, I'm going to congregate it right here. We're going to have an inner conversation. What is my icky thoughts? What am I thinking? What do I believe? What's going on? And have that inner conversation. Don't emit it out intentionally. Then when you got your thoughts,
that's a great. That is doable.
that is doable.
It is doable to okay, because that's what I was talking about the last couple of days. I was saying, okay, so I got to this point, like after I downloaded that, and all this stuff was like falling into place, like when you shuffle cards, it was going like that, and then I thought, okay, wait a minute now, how am I going to proceed? Okay, so don't act, don't speak, stop it here at the thought, and that's what I went through. What I went through was, okay, I can actually have a dialogue. I can work this out. It doesn't go out into the world because I'm seeing it for what it is and declaring it for what it is. And then I can make the choice, which can either be to continue to shut up and say nothing, or I might speak something with some forethought, or take action with forethought,
right.
which still won't be 100%, but again, we're perfecting. So you can't go to a higher perfection if you don't take an action. You're not going to go to a higher perfection if you sit on your butt and flatline,
Well, so sometimes too, an action is even just having a thought that you're directing out to the world.
Yes,
so that's also an action too that many people don't recognize is real, but it is real all at the same time. So the action is if you want to have an action and you're unsure about how to navigate your thoughts and your emotions, then say, I'm going to have, as someone just shared in the chat box, which was so beautiful, having my own inner board meeting.
Yeah.
And, you can have your own inner board meeting, keep it indoors inside your inner experience. Then when you're very clear, then send it out.
Yeah.
And usually sending it out with compassion, understanding, lack of judgments from our end, opens the conversation, even if the other person is presenting a conflict or a problem. And then the conversation already begins, the oral conversation or the text conversation begins more openly and honestly and authentically than the blaming that we've all felt from each other.
Yeah, there's something interesting about when two people come together, if one of the people can stay in a place of no judgment, which would probably mean that the other stay in a place of no judgment and little or nothing to say, keeping it very concise and matter of fact. It is what it is. And if the other person still has some stuff to get off their chest, that pretty much the energy of it diminishes to the illusion of, disempowerment that it is, because
they might have to go back to their own Zoom room and then come back to the main meeting.
Right.
Right.
Because there's nothing coming back to you except for a presence of I love you. I don't look at you any different. You could be whatever. You could say whatever, and I'm still going to feel the same. That's the space we were talking about earlier. You know?
Right.
What a gift. What a gift you are. Where are you going next? You going to Sedona?
I'm going to Sedona next, and then going on a hiking trip and getting connected with nature
Yeah.
and conscious business people. And it's really beautiful. And
Where's that going to be? Where's that going to be? Where's that going to be at?
In Moon Mountain in northern Prescott Valley.
In Arizona.
Yeah.
Right on. Right on. Well, yeah, maybe I'll see you over there later summer, early fall.
That sounds beautiful.
How can we even make any, how can we even make any plans right now?
That's right. We're all in the flow for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's wonderful to see you, and all blessings to you and yours, your husband, your beautiful
All
family.
blessings to you and yours. Thank you all so much. What an amazing conversation. And thank you for really congealing it all together and really bringing this forward. I feel so blessed every moment, and knowing that the inner work we do for ourselves, and then when we step in that oneness, and then when we do it for the collective, for ourselves inside the oneness, we are making a dramatic difference for the world.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Best thing we can do is handle our own shift.
Handle our own shift.
Keep our sticky nose out of everybody's business.
There you go.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Thank you.